Mesdames et Messieurs, permettez-moi de parler en anglais. C'est meilleur pour toi. Ma famille, toute ma famille est francophone, sauf moi, anglophone. It happened. Okay. Jerusalem is the core of the problem and the key to the solution. The future of Jerusalem takes center stage whenever proposals for future of Palestine are discussed. Jerusalem is a major city in the three Abrahamic religions, Judaism, Christianity, and Islam. These three monotheistic religions look at the city each from its own perspective. The Jews believe that the temple is located somewhere in the city. Some of them believe that the Temple Mount is the same site as the previous Solomon temple. The Christians consider the Church of the Holy Sepulchre the site of the resurrection of Christ, who carried his cross in Jerusalem and walked on the path of Calvary. He was crucified and buried in this church and then raised to heaven. As for Muslims, all sects consider Jerusalem to be the first of the two Qiblas, the direction towards which the early Muslims turned in their prayers. The Holy Mecca later replaced it as alternative Qibla. In Jerusalem, there is Al-Aqsa Mosque, which is the third after the Mosque of Mecca and of the Medina. Muslims believe that the Prophet Muhammad journeyed at night to Al-Aqsa from sacred mosque in Mecca before ascending heaven. And that was mentioned in the Holy Quran. For thousands of years, the three religions have performed, the adherents of three religions had performed their religious rites, each in its place, except in the period of the Crusaders in the 12th and 13th centuries and other intermittent periods. Some history. In the 7th century, the Arab Muslims conquered the Levant. Khalifa Umar ibn al-Khattab entered the city of Jerusalem, and when it comes to prayer, he didn't enter the church. He chose to pray outside it, thus establishing an Islamic tradition not to pray in the temples of the others and leave them free to the people of their own religion. The Crusaders invaded the Levant in 1096 and occupied Jerusalem in 1099. Saladin liberated the city in 1187. Writer Amin Ma'louf mentions in his novel, The Crusaders Through Arab Eyes, that Saladin allowed freedom of worship, and he kept the churches and brought Jewish residents to the city, returning them back to the Jewish quarters after the Crusaders had expelled them for 88 years. However, Crusaders restored the city, and then the Arabs restored it again. Jerusalem was a subject of the authority of Islamic empires until the First World War, World War I, when Ottoman Empire was defeated and Palestine fell under British mandate. During the British mandate, skirmishes taken place between Arab population and Jewish immigrants. And the United States and the United Nations adopted a resolution dividing Palestine into a Palestinian state and a Jewish state. And they kept the city of Jerusalem under the authority of the United Nations. The UN mediator, the Swedish Count Bernadotte, a member of the royal family, was sent to find a solution for Jerusalem, but was assassinated by the Zionist gangs in September 1948. Now, on May 15, 1948, the first Arab-Israeli war broke out, resulting in the declaration of the State of Israel and displacement of a large part of Arab populations out of Palestine. East Jerusalem remained under the Arab control, specifically the control of the Kingdom of Hashemite of Jordan. In 1969, in 1967, Israel occupied the West Bank and East Jerusalem, which includes the holy sites. In 1969, an Australian extremist stormed Al-Aqsa Mosque and set fire to the southern side. The facades, the ceiling, the pulpit, decorations, rare carpets, and all the Qurans were burned, and the buildings was damaged. The Israeli authorities were accused of cutting off the water and slowing down the dispatch of ambulances and fire trucks. After many claims, Israel brought the Australian Dennis Rohan to trial, declared him mentally unfit, and released him. This raised concern of the international community. The Security Council issued a resolution condemning Israel and calling it to cancel all the measures that would change the situation of the city. There had been a state of anger in all the Arab and Muslim world. Leaders of the Islamic countries met in Morocco and decided to establish the organization of Islamic Conference. And after 1 year, the Jerusalem Committee was established under the chairmanship of King of Morocco, Hassan II, to preserve the city and its sanctities. Now, from geographic perspective, the area of the old Jerusalem is 1 square kilometer, el kilo. It consists of 4 quarters: the Islamic quarters, the Armenian quarter, the Christian quarter, and the Jewish quarter, which is called the Honor quarters. As for the Arab neighborhoods adjacent to the old city and the city wall, the most prominent of them are Abu Dis, Shafat, Silwan, Al-Tur, Jabal Mukabbir, and Sheikh Jarrah. The Islamic shrine is located in the Islamic quarter. Thank you, merci. Is located in the Islamic quarter, and it's currently the focus of the conflict. Its dimensions are 48 meters, 300 meters, which is equivalent to the area of 6 football fields. Inside it is the city of, inside it are the Al-Aqsa Mosque on the southern side and the Golden Dome of Rock Mosque in the north. And that's an original rock supported by iron, under which there is a cave that can accommodate to 4 or 5 persons. The Church of the Holy Sculpture is located in Old Jerusalem and in the Christian warfare, and was built over the Golgotha. There is a tradition in Jerusalem since 1187, or the era of Saladin, which says that the key of the church of the resurrection, of the sculpture's case, is kept with one of the Muslims of the city. It is currently with Mr. Adib Jawd al-Husseini, and he has presented it to 4 popes who visited the city recently. As for the Jewish sanctities, they are still controversial and limited to the Western Wall, called the Wailing Wall by the Jewish, and Al-Burak by the Muslims. It is the Western Wall of Al-Aqsa Mosque and extends to the Maghariba Gate in the south to Al-Tankazi School in the north, which Israeli occupation turned into a Knesset and a police headquarters. In 1950, Israel issued a law called absentee property law, allowing the confiscation of movable and immovable property of Jerusalem Arabs who fled the occupation and sought refuge in neighboring countries and outside. Their number at that time was 70,000, and they estimated to were on the 80% of the occupied part in West Jerusalem. Since 1976, the Israeli occupation authorities began confiscating Palestinian lands and establishing settlements in the vicinities of East Jerusalem, despite the resolution issued by the United Nations calling for not changing the status of the city. Until the beginning of this year, 2023, the number of settlements in the vicinities of East Jerusalem reached more than 40. And the number of settlers, according to CIA website, reached 230,000 compared to 360,000 Palestinians. This number does not include the residents of West Jerusalem, which most of them are Jews. The total population of the entire city is 950,000, almost a million. The presence of settlers is a source of almost daily friction between them and the Palestinian population. The international community considers the settlement illegal, and many countries consider it a major obstacle to reaching a solution to the Arab-Israeli conflict. Many ultra-nationalist Jews consider settlement as a religious duty. Despite the successive Israeli governments of all political leanings and trends, they continued the illegal settlement contrary to the decisions of the United Nations and with clear support of the United States. The United States' position towards settlement ranged from consider it illegal during President Reagan administration, to considering it a matter of dispute during Clinton administration, while President Trump administration supported Israel's annexation to the east part of Jerusalem. Now, the archaeological perspective. Since the 19th century, excavations has been carried out in Jerusalem and other parts in Palestine. And to this day, no Jewish antiquities have been found in Jerusalem, especially in the area of the Temple Mount. That's the Islamic sanctuary. From 1961 to 1967, British scientist Kathleen Kenyon excavated in Jerusalem, Jericho, and other areas of Palestine. Her work was published in 5 volumes. She wrote, she confirmed that there are no Jewish antiquities. And the same also, Zeif Herzog, a professor in Tel Aviv University, published a book deconstructing the walls of Jerusalem and talk about the possibility of existence as a mere temple somewhere, but it's not considered from the economy, it's far from the enormity described in religious books. Now, let me call the summary, the conclusion of this, that in 1990s, the late Syrian President Hafez Assad talked about the peace of the brave. And he almost reached the peace agreement with Israeli Prime Minister Yitzhak Rabin, who was assassinated in Israel in an unprecedented event in the history of this country. The peace of brave prompted Menachem Begin to dismantle the settlement in Sinai in order to reach a peace agreement with Egypt. And in 2005, Ariel Sharon ordered to dismantle the settlement in Gaza as a prelude to withdrawing. Arab countries endorsed the Arab Peace Initiative, which is based on UN Security Council resolutions, including withdrawal from occupied territories, establishing a Palestinian state with East Jerusalem as its capital, and recognizing the state of Israel and ensuring its security. When, let me ask, when will there be a brave Israeli leader, not seduced by billions of dollars of aid from the United States, and not influenced by the nuclear power he possesses? When there will be an Israeli brave leader with the courage to respond to Arab Peace Initiative and end this conflict that has exhausted the entire region? Thank you.